Hey real world climbers, we are back with the third installment of the expansion of Headquarters Part 5. So in the last episode we literally built this wall right here, and I know my camera is pretty good at adjusting for the light, but it is actually fairly dark in here. I've got these two lights up here, and then I've got lights that are outside of the climbing room, and so it ends up being a little bit dark. So we're going to expand the lighting here and go from those two, and I'm going to add two more of these clamp lights. They are just these shop clamps that can clamp onto anything. I'm going to clamp them onto the joist work. And then I'm just going to plug these shop lights into a remote switcher box that has a remote light switch that is installed over at the entrance. So I can turn them all on and off and one switch, not have to get behind the wall or anything like that. I'm going to be adding a sheet of triangular plywood right here with T-nuts. We're going to install the hangboard, which was one of the main reasons for doing the whole wall expansion in the first place. So we're going to install the hangboard right up here. And then also, to make sure I honor my word, I'm going to install the shelving in the back here. So that way my wife is happy. And that was one of the other stipulations, was that this could be used as a shed and storage and things like that. So this will be the tools of my trade here. These two clamp lights, a couple light bulbs, and then extension cord. I'm thinking I'll need the extension cord because I'm going to have some lights on one side of the setup and then lights on the other side of the setup shining different directions. And so if I want them all to be controlled by one box, I'm just going to string them with that extension cord. Also, I already have a small electric fan that is in place up there, but it's not yet plugged in, and I think I'll be able to install that as well. So that fan can be turned on with the same light switch, and that's going to be super helpful in the summers to clear out hot air, and then in the winters I'm going to aim it to bring the hot air back down and recirculate the warm air. So up we go with the extension cord first. So here's that fan that's already in place. I'm going to plug that in the original power strip. Oh yeah. And now I'm just going to string this along the wall. So I really like these clamp lights because of how versatile they are and where you can put them. So I think with this one I'm going to go right up here. And since the switch is already switched for the rest of them, if I turn this on, ready to roll. Oh yeah. Lots better in there. Now the next light I'm going to install, I think I'm going to go all the way behind the moon board and shine it a fourth direction. And so I don't think it'll pay to bring the camera back there, but I think you get the picture. So I don't know if you can tell the difference in camera here, because again my camera adjusts. But before, if you know camera lingo, before it was requiring 3200 ISO, and now in spots it gets down to 1250 ISO. So it's quite a bit more bright in here, just from adding that light up there and that light up there. I don't know how excited I am about that light's exact position. There is this rail up there that I installed, which I might move, but I don't think that the light is in the way of finishing holds, so that's pretty good. One other thing that I'm going to do probably later is just more for additional all covering light, is to do some white Christmas lights and just kind of string them around, and that would just balance out the light so it's not so spotlight-like. But right now at least I feel like it's bright enough on all four sides that you can climb in here and have a good ambiance. So let's get started on some of the fine-tuning portions, like the little peripherals, little spots that are kind of unique to the build that now create maybe handholds that I can utilize. First of those spots here is this side piece here, this support piece that we did for the campus board. To kind of connect that, we installed this 50-degree section here. I've added an extra campus rung, and you'll see these campus rungs in a dedicated video about the remodel of this campus board. In that video, I actually am going to be doubling the number of rungs and having 2 different size rungs so I can work things a little bit differently. So keep an eye out for that video. But since I only needed 5 for the campus board, then this 6th one that I got is kind of a nice little rail right here. It was really the first hole that was put on the new wall. And I just kind of like it there as a good transition. Another thing I did here is I added this nice comfy rail. You've seen these in my previous build, but I added one of these at the top of this little transitory piece on the vert wall, just as a nice little way to kind of finish some routes. And to plug another video that should be coming soon is I'm going to be revamping my endurance weave to incorporate the whole room, which is a concept that I've done in my previous walls. And go ahead and click up here for the video where I redo my weave on home wall number 4. I definitely don't want to forget the bacon strips. I got a bunch of these screw-on rails that some people call bacon strips because they kind of resemble bacon. And these, I'm going to put a handful of these up here on this wall right here. I'm not sure if I talked about this in my original build. This actually I did put into place in my original build, but I want to talk about that now as well. These are just some rails, some wooden rails that I put in place, but I put them there for a reason. I put them here in this specific orientation because behind that is that metal plate for the joist work, and there's these weird nails that have like kind of protruding heads, and they're kind of rectangular shaped heads, and so I didn't want anybody catching their fingers on those, and so I covered those up with the wood. And then I put this little triangle piece of wood in here as like a finishing jug, and that's nice and sanded off. I plan on putting some screw-on holds here and here for additional places to finish routes. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this piece of scrap plywood that I brought from Minnesota and just hadn't had a place to use it, and I'm going to put that on this arete here of the 30-degree wall, actually like more so here. So how I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to put it into place. I'm going to kind of wedge it in and put it into place along this, and then I'm going to use a marker and I'm going to just draw a line following this, and then take it off and cut it. And that way I know it's exactly the way I want it, and I have a nice smooth cut on this edge. So I just got that in there for a mock-up, and then I'm going to go on this backside and draw a line from here, and then take it right back down. So there's my cut line. Alright, so I've already taken out the T-nuts here that are in kind of my affected zone. They started from taking off, and then this one that's close to my line. So I'm going to cut this, and then I may choose to add a couple more T-nuts here. So the tricky part is lining up exactly where I had it before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this side first. I'm going to use a hammer to make sure that this stays flush. So I have a little bit of overlap there. And I'm going to do that before I secure it in over here. So it's pretty close. It's definitely flush up here, and it's flush down here, but there's a little bit here that I'm just going to sand off, make it nice and flush there. So let's finish shoring this up. So now I'll just use the hand sander here. Kind of want to round this edge anyways, so I'll just smooth out this one little lip here as well. Alright, so now I'm debating on what to do next. So I can build the shelving and make my wife happy, or I can install the hangboard. Gavin, what do you think I should do next?
Hangboard.
Gavin says hangboard. Originally I was going to do the hangboard first, but I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to do the shelving first, because I need to know where that shelving is going to land. So what I've got here is some bed slats from one of my children's previous beds, and we're going to reuse that as the base of the shelving right here. And that's where I wanted to make sure that I had the right amount of depth. So I've pre-measured, and at this mark, which is about 6 feet from the ground, would be enough room for me to get that same size shelving there. So I'm gonna have one shelf up there, and then I'll probably have another one about halfway between there. That'll be a narrower shelf. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find a piece of 2x4 that will span through here. That will be the bracing, and then we'll put some against the back side of that wall too, to rest that slats on. Alright, so now I'm going to go lay these up here, spread them out. This is the length of the bed though, so there's a little bit extra room. But I do have another piece of the bed that I'm going to repurpose, which is the headboards. So now you can see I've got some totes already stored up there. Lots more room there. And then kind of a cool serendipity I saw here is these slats that stick out a little bit can be good for hanging gear from. Alright, so that's one shelf down. We'll look at making another shelf right here. And I also have the desire to put another piece of T-nutted plywood right here. So I'm going to try to find a triangular piece that can fit there. I think I got it right here. I just have to nip off a little bit of end of this here, and then it'll sit nice and flush with the wall. So if you haven't noticed yet, I'm really big about reusing things and not wasting things. And so I had these spare pieces that were a little bit shorter, and they were from a previous wall, like the blocking in a previous wall. But I think I'm going to reuse these because they're about the right depth for me to do the next shelf here. Alright, so I measured this gap here. It's 95 inches, so I'm going to reuse this piece of wood as well from Jack's old wall, cut it off at 95 inches and insert it in there. Now I have just a piece of plywood that I'm going to lay on top of there. It is probably one of the best quality pieces of plywood in this entire wall, but it just so happens to be left over for now, and so I'm going to use it as shelving. So it's actually just like an inch too long, so I'm not sure if I want to take off an inch or not, but I think I will. All right, shelf one, shelf two, done. Now that the shelving is done, I think we're ready to hit the final phase here, and that is putting the hangboard up. And it actually worked out perfect that I didn't do the hangboard before the shelving like I had originally planned, or like my son wanted me to. And here's why. Originally, I thought I would put it up here on the side here. I'm realizing that I would have to bring it out to get it so that when I am hanging, my belly isn't hitting the sidewall. So therefore, I've changed my mind, and I think I'm going to put it just across this entryway right here. So there's a really nice connection piece from right here over to the studs of there, and so I'm just going to build that out there with some framing and then hook the hangboard up to that, and then my feet will be free hanging down here. My only decision now is whether I have the hangboard on this side, so I'm facing out when I'm hanging, or if I have it from this side, so I'm facing in towards the climbing. So I've already measured this span here, and it's 45 inches. So I'm going to cut two of these spare pieces of wood, and again, this is all reused. You can see this one here has an angled end from a previous wall, and so these are reused and basically recycled, and I'm going to cut those at 45 inches and then throw them up on the wall. Now here's the hangboard, and previously I had it attached to this piece of 2x12, but it's kind of been chopped up and things like that. So I'm actually going to transplant this onto a new piece of 2x12. In addition to that, I have these holds here that I got from Sinrock, and I'm actually doing a review video on them as well. But I'm going to use these as additional hangboard style holds because there's like a sloper here, there's a pinch here, there is a nice pocket here, but mostly like finding something for a sloper has been pretty hard. So I'm actually going to be using these on the outsides of the hangboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my center point and center the hangboard and install that, and then I will locate where I want these in relation to the hangboard, and then I will screw those holes. So now actually I have to remove this off of here. Alright, so that's really solid. Okay, so I think I got them where I want them. I'm going to take my pencil here, mark my hole, drill it out with a 1/2 inch bit, and put a T-nut in the back, just like we would any other climbing hole. And now we're ready to install it. And now we test it. I like it. Now all that's left is the finishing touches. Real world climbing. So thank you for joining me on this extended journey of building Real World Climbing Headquarters Part 5. We had the original build plus the expansion. We got our hangboard. We got plenty of storage, both behind the original walls and the new stuff you just saw. So thanks so much for joining me in this journey. If you're getting good stuff out of this content, I would love it if you click the chains on the subscribe button. We'll see you in a future video very soon.